I've played more than hundreds of games this year, like my life depended on it. So in this video, we're going to explore 10 games you should play before you pass away. And don't worry, these aren't games like throwing babies in the oven or two naked men chase you around with machetes. Anyway, starting with number 10 is Evil West. Seriously, it was a huge amount of fun, one of my top 3 games last year, including Plague Tale Requiem and Midnight Suns. It was just pure fun. It reminded me of a cross between John Carpenter's Vampires and Dark Watch. In my opinion, it felt like a game that was supposed to be released like 10 years ago, but got shelved for a decade. It was still fun, but just weird to play a new release that felt so dated. The story played out like a campy B-movie, but knew what it was going for all along and didn't overstay its welcome. Coming up next, number 9 is Rise of the Ronin. Surprised to see so many low scores. I had a blast playing the game and spent 50+ hours with it. It has its flaws, but it also has a lot of charm. Reminds me of PS3 era games. And the combat system is just superb. Most reviews mention the visuals and story as one of the biggest weaknesses, but I honestly don't care about those. So as long as the combat is good, which seems to be the case, I'm happy. I also vastly enjoyed both Wolong and Soapy. Team Ninja just makes fun games. Up next, number 8 is Remnant 2. The game is excellent, builds are fun to craft. Almost every weapon and piece of loot feels fun to find. It has occasionally mind-bogglingly complex secrets. This is a good thing. Combat and shooting mechanics are excellent. Bosses are mostly top-notch. Biggest downsides for me personally are the incredibly low trait cap that still bothers me, even though I otherwise enjoy the game and I'm starting to feel the repetition of only 3 biomes. But apart from those, I'd say it improves on Remnant 1 on every other aspect. Moving on to the next game, number 7, is Insurgency Sandstorm. Pretty fun game. Also, people who say there is lack of content probably haven't dug into the game further than one game mode, one class, and couple guns they always pick. Not near as many bugs as COD, but it has its issues. It's a small company who made it, but the game is one of a kind and great. Definitely a breath of fresh air if you're more used to playing arcade shooters. Will give you a nice break in between games for sure. Coming up next, number 6 is Control. Jesse's story is well explained in the game, even without reading collectibles. Reading them enhances understanding, but it's not necessary. Control has some of the best storytelling in gaming. Gun controls feel weird initially until you get used to them, then they feel pretty good. I'm terrible at shooters, and found controls pretty good. The map is effective for navigating the oldest house, and it's easy to find your way with signs throughout. Figuring out what to shoot isn't difficult, but some targets are hard to spot. The finish Tango, however, is obvious. If the genre isn't your thing, you might not enjoy the game. Despite that, it's pretty solid game. Up next, number 5 is The Last of Us Part 1. If you've never played the game before, it's definitely worth buying as it's the best version available. However, if you already own the original or the remaster, obviously it's not necessary, but it's damn good. It looks better than the PS5 version of Part 2. Better lighting, better models, and smoother FPS with 120 Hz. You aren't getting 120 FPS, but it's definitely more than 60 in a lot of areas. It's hands down the best way to play the game. Price could be lower, but either way, it blows the remaster out of the water. If you love the game, it's definitely worth it. Moving on to the next game, number 4 is Metro Exodus. It's my favorite of the series. Great graphics, gameplay, story, and ensemble of characters. Having the ensemble of characters travel on a train together in this journey is very symbolic in several ways that really adds to the narrative. I know people complain about the sandbox hubs, change in atmosphere, and somewhat narrative, but this series would be so stale if everything was dark, bleak survival horror underground Metro once again for a third time. Highly immersive, tense, sometimes terrifying but really fun. Coming up next, number 3 is Doom Eternal. When it was released, Doom 2016 was easily the best FPS I had played since Half-Life 2. It was incredible. But then Doom Eternal came out, and I can safely say it's one of the best FPSs I've ever played and fixes most of the issues I had with 2016. My only criticism of Eternal is that I personally think the bosses are a step down from 2016's. But virtually everything else from a gameplay standpoint is ridiculously refined. Eternal truly feels like an evolution of what they started with 2016, and I'm glad they didn't play it safe. Moving on to the next game, number 2 is Mortal Kombat 1. 2023 was a great year for fighting games. I mean, Street Fighter 6, MK1, and Tekken are all releasing together so closely, it's almost giving me flashbacks to when my local arcade would update with new cabinets. The story goes pretty crazy in the last quarter, but I still enjoyed it. If you are looking for a new best fighting game, then go for MK1. You will have so much fun. Getting good at a fighting game and learning all the intricacies will give you so much replay value. MKX was the first fighting game I actually took the time to learn, and I think it's still my most played game ever. Finally, coming up, the last game is Helldivers 2. I've played 82 plus hours, and I've loved every minute of it. Also, usually play with randoms every time, but sometimes nice to solo too. It's great. If you enjoy co-op shooters like Left 4 Dead, Killing Flower, Payday, etc., then it can be a very fun game. It is definitely better if you have friends that you can play with. If you find those games repetitive and boring, then you will almost certain find Helldivers 2 repetitive and boring as well. At the end of the day, Helldiver 2 isn't a game with a lot of depth. There's basically about 5 different attack missions and maybe 3 defend missions, and it's just the same thing on repeat over and over and over again. Here is the bonus game. It's called Lost Judgment. It's also probably my favorite game in the series, on the same place as Yakuza, Like a Dragon. This game probably have the best story I've seen in this franchise, and much better than First Judgment. Characters are great, with Kuwana being my favorite antagonist in the series. I also liked school side stories. They added a lot of nice dynamics between Yagami and the students. There's also the Kaido Files DLC, which has a great story, and it's fun to fight as Kaido. The game offers diverse activities like stealth missions, platforming, and tailing suspects, alongside a cool addition, a detective dog named Ranpo to help you sniff out hidden items and suspects. Engaging side quests involve aiding school clubs and playing fun mini-games, while you can enjoy classic Sega games within the game itself. With its intriguing storyline and a cast of diverse characters, Lost Judgment promises an immersive solo gaming experience. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more gaming content, and comment your favorite game.